You are now listening to Vigilantes Radio presented by the Only One Media Group. This is the people's choice for quality art, interviews, music and hot topics. Hosted by Dini Mussolini and co-hosted by Banditti. Call in to join the mix at 701-801-9813. All episodes of this podcast are available for free download at least 1 hour after each show at www.onlyonemediagroup.com. We welcome all. Enjoy the show.
Yo, it feels so good to be back with you guys once again. So one time for my people who are indigos, starseeds, and 2 times for my people who are vegans. It is definitely a struggle for us vegans out here. Live off the land, my friends, live off the land. But hey, that's for another show, another time. Look, folks, we are averaging over 34,000 plus listeners and over 888,000 downloads worldwide. And we've been at this thing for 3 solid years. So I appreciate all you guys who have been rocking with the kid on this journey. And we are still growing, baby. It is all because of you, most definitely. We are the people who have dedicated their lives to music, art, movies, and research in every aspect. And we want to allow you that opportunity to tell your story. Man, we've had celebrities on the show, from Grammy Award-winning artists, nominees, to actors, comedians, technology geniuses, visual artists, from authors to professors. And this one time, I had a professional phone sex operator that I interviewed. What? Yeah, we'll release that soon. Don't worry about it. And aliens. Or people who think they're aliens. Well, it doesn't matter, though, who you are or what walk of life that you come from. Come on the show and talk to us. So check it out. To book your interview or just to share a real cool story, email me at theradio@onlyonemediagroup.com. I am passionate about what I do, just as passionate about what you do, and together, yes, together, we can get your voice heard by the people who should hear it. So let's create something incredible. And with that, hello out there, and welcome to another episode of our podcast, Vigilantes Radio. Thank you guys again for always tuning in and being a part of our audience family. If you like information on how to call in, ask questions, or speak to the guest, dial 701-801-9813, or hop in the mix directly from the website, which is onlyonemediagroup.com. Scroll over to the Vigilantes Radio tab and slap that go live button, and you'll be right here in the mix with all of us. There's also a chat room available, so feel free to shoot over some questions just in case I get stuck, or you just want to say hey to old Dini. Feel free to call in. If we have time, we normally do take calls, but if we don't, we just don't take calls. But hey, the chat room is there. And as always, all episodes are available for free download. And you can grab that from our server over at Spreaker.com/Only One Media Group, over at iTunes, YouTube, and we are now in your pocket. Yes, that's right, in your pocket on an app called Podcast Addict. Yeah, carry us around 24/7, 365 days in your pocket, your purse, your wallet. I don't know about your wallet, but backpack, whatever it is to carry a cell phone or a tablet in these days. So feel free to stream or download, bootleg. I don't really care, because sharing is caring, as long as the message get out and our wonderful guests get their stories heard, because that is what we do here over at onlyonemediagroup.com, or Vigilante Radio, should I rather say. Anyway, well, we've been doing a lot of pre-recorded shows lately, and It's mostly like a new crop of artists or authors coming out, and they're a little shy. So some just don't want to, make mistakes, I guess you could say. But be organic, be yourself. We're human. We're people having a human experience. So enjoy yourself. If you fumble, oh well. I do it all the time. And yes, I do get hate mail for it, but hey, I'm Deanie, right? Not just playing no hate mail for that, but other things. Anyway, so let's look here. Tonight is a live show, which is fabulous. We have a little over 24,000 with us on the line here in the chat room. What is up, beautiful people? Yay. So tonight's episode is the Ed Roman interview. And I am your host, Deanie Mussolini. A lot of times I leave off the Mussolini when we do we don't do advertisements, but we do post on our social media every now and then. So there's a lot of bad history with Mussolini. So a lot of times I leave that off. But in the show, I am definitely Deanie Mussolini. And yeah. No announcements tonight, but we will continue to talk about the 3 music industry problems. Of course, I'm not going to give you guys the whole chunk in one night. No, we break it up. So we already talked about touring, how guys can make money. But I just want to share one real quick thing with you guys. And when I say music industry, this is really the new music industry. This is a problem that I see that comes up in my career here as Coach Deanie, coaching you artists to a better career, right? Yes, that's what we do. Okay, so everyone touts the idea of social media, saving the broke musician from the marketing efforts of the major labels. And okay, social media is a big deal for musicians. And really well-managed social media accounts can launch music careers. It's been done, and it will continue to be done. So you can name your favorite example now. Come on, think hard. You don't really have to think hard. It's right there at the tip of your tongue. You already know somebody who has gone viral and somewhat famous from large social media platforms, right? Okay, well, the flip side of connecting with fans via social media is the concept of becoming internet famous. That means that you build up a really strong social media following, that people are chatting about you, and guess what though? You're not making a single penny from your music. Oh, how sad. Yes, the sad reality is that just because people are sharing your viral video does not mean that they are buying tickets to your shows, which in my book really matters, okay? Nor does having 5,000 plus Facebook fans mean that you'll sell 5,000 concert tickets, or having at least 1,200 people accept your invite to an event, So you do the math, if there's any math to do in that equation. And it's so important, guys, for musicians to always remember that man and woman cannot live by the internet alone, and that managing social media promotion is about more than trying to get a lot of followers. Musicians are battling the trap of becoming internet famous by pursuing offline promotion, as well by leveraging the audiences who actually attend the shows. Now, a lot of you younger artists may say, hey man, that street corner playing stuff, that's old school. Hey, maybe so, but guess what? We were able to sell records that way. And of course you can sell records from the comforts of your bedroom, but if you did a show in New York, like let's say you're from California and you're going to New York to do a show, guess what? 10 times out of 10, that's right, I won't even give you a chance there, no 1%. 10 times out of 10, you will have to sell tickets for your own concert. So, yeah. And I'm not saying these things to discourage anyone. Of course not. What I am saying is that along with the online promotion, that same energy has to go offline as well. And the internet has made it to where there's hardly any people. Like, there's no people interactions anymore. Hardly. I get digital business cards all the time. I'm like, what? When did that become a thing? Man, I feel old. But at the same time, things change, things transcend. But there are still key principles. You want to translate 5,000 Facebook fans into $5,000. That is the goal. Living your dream, that is the end goal, right? Right. All right, so I won't bore you guys with any more of my ramblings, and I won't keep 24,000 of you guys waiting any longer, because I know you're not here for me. No, you have to be here for Ed Roman. So we'll get this thing kicked off. And I don't know if you can tell by my voice, but I am extremely happy with the way these interview questions turned out. So I was sitting at my desk with the cat in the backyard. We were just scribbling ideas. He said, hey, why don't you ask him this? So like, okay, that's cool. I'll ask him that. And we were just jamming to a few jams and drinking the green tea, enjoying, life and nature. Anyway, Ed Roman is made up of the stand-up character you need to be to survive in this music business. And I believe that he definitely understands why we do what we do here at Vigilantes Radio. The music, number one, is very important, and it deserves our respect. So we do our best every time to make sure we communicate that with an interview that does its justice. And I really believe that we will achieve that tonight between Ed and this Vigilantes Radio feature of him here. I think we can achieve that, yeah. So, you were very lucky. As a bonus, who am I kidding? The bonus is actually Ed Roman. And that's all we need. Oh yeah, and his wonderful music to fill our ear holes. I think it's every bit as important to see that even across the world, we can still connect. That goes back to the new music industry, as I was talking about earlier. Times has changed. He doesn't have to fly to California just to sit down with Deanie, which would be cool, right? No. There's the internet. We can just do this from his side of the screen to my side of the screen. And we can still impact each other through music. So, have a sit down as we dive deep into this interview with Ed Roman. But before that, yes, there has to be a before that. Let's invite him on. And hello, Ed. Welcome to our show. How are you feeling, my man?
Deanie, I'm quite well, my friend. Thank you so kindly for asking. Yourself?
I am blessed, man. Doing great.
Good.
Yeah, so how's the weather where you're at?
Well, spring is leaving like a lion, or coming in like a lion, I should say, if you will. We've got an ice storm happening and snow, and I'm not really too happy about it because I'm a sun worshiper and I grow a lot of food here at the farm, and I'm just dying for spring to kick in full tilt so I can get in my garden and, plant my vegetables.
That is awesome that you have a garden. Wow. That is awesome.
Well, I come from a pretty big agricultural family. I mean, we, for years and years, it was 1,500 acres of cash crop stuff that we worked between corn and barley and oats and all sorts of stuff. And, my parents always had an immense garden, an acre and a half with the food that we grew, and my grandparents and uncle and aunt. And, there was about 50 of us that all lived inside of about a couple of miles because, the farm was quite big with the cattle and everything. But, growing food is in my blood. That's the thing. It's like some people think it's like, an arduous task. It's difficult to do anything when you're starting to learn and try to understand stuff. But my parents and grandparents always made it seem like magic, you know, like the fact that you could put a seed in the ground or tend something in some nurturing kind of way that would lead to something that would sustain you in the future is like is key. It's paramount. And that really just, it's old country mentality, old world mentality, because my grandparents came from Slovakia. So that was, I mean, everybody did it. You grew food. Yeah. It was a norm, right? So yeah, I'm a grower, that's for sure.
That is so cool. And I watched a few of your music videos. You actually shot on your land, right?
Yeah, I mean, I find landscapes, you know, in places around the world, and it's just so magical. I mean, you know, those places where you could just, like, point anywhere with a camera and you're getting something. So I love that natural quality to certain things. I think it really lends itself to a lot of the stories and the librettos and things that I'm talking about. So yeah, I'm nature boy.
Definitely. And I absolutely love the one you shot in Jamaica. I'm actually from St. Mary, Jamaica.
Oh, you're kidding, man.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time out in Orcabessa, just around Racecourse, and a lot of time in St. Mary's, a lot of time in St. Anne's. Last 4 years of my life, I've been lucky enough to go there and spend time and absorb the love and the culture and everything that's there that is so, like I said, magical. I mean, that video is so easy for me to shoot in so many ways because, as I said, anywhere you point, it's paradise. So I love going back there, man.
Oh yeah, it was great. So it all has to start somewhere, and what you started from oracles and ice cream was sure to continue on into a career filled with music and packed venues full of happy fans. And of course, like any incredible artist out there, your music will change, grow, and evolve over time. So from where it all started, Ed, to where we are now with your new album, your latest album, Red Omen, where do you think you might take it next? And I know this is probably a crazy question to begin with, but we'll catch everybody up, you know. So where are we going in the future with everything?
Well, you know, I love that you're starting like at the end, at the beginning, kind of, because that's cool. You're like, you know, messing it up a bit, and it's funny because most people talk about the immediacy of what's going on in the record and the latest single or video that you've released or whatever, but what's in the future right away is great. So, you know, like you said, and your statement has a lot of gravity, an artist is always changing, and they're learning from their experiences, whether it be the writing process, whether it be the recording process, things they're getting turned on to, you know, every day. And you get hooked in certain frameworks of things. So I don't like to put any math on what I do. I'm always hopefully allowing myself to be pulled through the art form. And that way I'm not negating anything and I'm not missing anything. So for me, I try to leave that door open, because that way I find that there's that diversity continually happening. As a writer, then the experience is always fresh. From album to album, there's always diversity. And I like that. It pushes you also as an artist, as a writer, to reach out, to push your limits in certain areas that you wouldn't normally have been in. So for me, I'm thinking also, you know, to be more specific about it, being a little bit more electronic. About the next record in a way that so much of my, you know, music has been considered this sort of folk, rock, art, pop kind of music, even country, you know, spoken word even. But for me, I'm also getting turned on to some other, you know, sort of more modern framework of composition. So if that occurs, I'm not going to stop it just because, you know, I like playing drums and acoustic guitar and bass and things like that. I want to follow that path, because I think there's something about that moment, the one, you know, when you're writing something new that like I said, you need to follow, as opposed to being, you know, forcing it in many ways. So that's a great question, Dean.
Oh, no problem. So yeah, I was just curious from the jump, though, you know, what your skill set, you know, it has room to grow, as everything does. But can we talk about your journey? Let's you know, get out all the way back to the beginning. Like, where did it all start for you, and where did a title like Oracles and Ice Cream come from anyways?
Well, it all started for me, if you're talking about the record, or just, I mean, musical influences and things for me are the Oracles. You know, they're the people that you learn from, those magical people you latch on to, you know, that you listen to devoutly for a long period of time and almost study like you're in some sort of, you know, university degree on a certain artist or something. There's these pronunciations of great, like, earnest and things that are really powerful and magical inside of those things that those artists say. So to me, they are like, you know, the oracle at Delphi, sitting on the chair over the crack of fissure in the temple, you know, prognosticating the people's futures as they come through the temple. So, and the ice cream in that level is the enjoyment part and the realization of what all that beautiful message and messages are saying to you, you know, and even the process of discovery inside of creation is like ice cream. I mean, when you're writing a song and you're finding all these connections and things that are, you know, really a bigger part of a bigger picture even than you sometimes, that's like, man, can I have 3 scoops? You know, like, it has that feeling to it. And that record for me was a real branch out from, as an independent artist coming out of the band project that I had, Special Ed and the Musically Challenged, to really say, well, look, here's 22 tunes, including a Rush cover, and half of that album was instrumental. It covered sort of realms of gypsy and jazz, folk, funk, spoken word, as I said, all sorts of stuff. Like, and it was a real, like, breakout for me to sort of go, hey, I'm here. You know, I'm doing this kind of a thing. And the fact that it was a double album, I think, made a lot of people go, whoa, who is this guy? And he just put out 22 tunes all of a sudden, you know, like. So it was a real cathartic release for me as well. And all of that, like, that's the thing, you know, these are great to have these kinds of conversations because aside from what the tune is saying, the songs themselves, because you're always kind of writing, and you never know how those 20 tunes, 13 tunes, 15 tunes are all going to kind of collide together, and subject matter and the things that they all kind of are saying in a similar way, but not. And that's really what I'm also looking for in that kind of, I know people are like, well, that's old school, the album, you know, is a single environment, you know. But for me, you know, if I'm gonna like do a release like that, I want to work diligently at something for 6 months and record it and mix it and master it and then look back at it and let it simmer and take from those piles and utilize them as I need them. So, you know, for me, it's that's even what Letters from High Latitudes was, and Red Omen. Now they're those, again, leaps and jumps in terms of writing and thinking, and really they're all about the human experience. Man, if you like Herbie Hancock and the people that Herbie's worked with as well as just on his own, you know, he once said that the definition of an artist is one who has the ability to fuse their life with the rhythm of the times. And I think that's what's always going on. We're always sort of absorbing and reflecting. And that's what's amazing about the whole experience to begin with.
All right. That is incredible. So as far as the songs go from your latest album, Red Omen, which is produced by Michael Jack, what else do you play, or is it strictly acoustic guitar?
Well, I mean, yeah, I fell in love with stringed instruments at a young age, but bass, man, is my main thing. I've been playing electric bass and acoustic bass since I was like 14. But guitar and you know, electric guitar, acoustic guitar, classical guitar, banjo, now some sitar, they're all for me these kind of, I gravitate immediately to that kind of a thing in an instrument. And I mean, so for me, those main instruments for sure, but I mean, I think every musician's a drummer. So I mean, I've been playing kit since I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13 years old, and hand drums of all kind. We always had a piano in the house, So I got into Hammond organ stuff. I've got a Hammond here in the studio and a real Fender Rhodes piano. I like a lot of vintage instruments and gear and amplifiers and things like that. So, I mean, I'm always dabbling in different things, and I think all musicians do. But I have the fortunate ability with Area 51, my recording studio here, that it's like, I can go up there like a scientist in this laboratory and play for hours. And inside of that, even in the composition, I mean, man, you were bringing up Jamaica. Well, when I got home from Jamaica, I mean, I knew I was going to write something, but I didn't know when, how, where, why, or what. But I got behind the kit, and I started playing, like, a whole bunch of one-drop stuff, like, just because I wanted to. And all of a sudden, things started popping out, and I got on the bass, and, I sampled what I was doing so I could play along to it and came up with the keyboard part. So it was all this developmental thing that made me go, well, when we cut it, let me try to do the parts. Let me try to play the instruments. And, like, people that I loved when I was a kid, like Stevie Wonder and other people that would dabble in those things, and people would be like, well, that's Stevie on the drums. That's Stevie on the keyboard. I mean, you listen to Superstition, other than the horn section, it's all Stevie. So it's like, I like that experience of also it being in the writing and recording process. But, man, I have people like Dave Fattel and Chris Taggart and Mike Friedman and Anthony Cook and Tobias Tinker and Xander Demos and all these amazing musicians that, I mean, the list of people that they've played with alone, but having them as well as part of the experience, whether they're in the studio with me cutting a track off the floor or we're over dubbing on, an acoustic guitar and vocal track that I've already done. That's the other thing. Like writing, I never try to put that math again or framework on what the recording process should be, because then it becomes, again, this sort of magical experience. And I think for the listener, even myself, hearing older recordings or recordings that I like, and you hear the story behind it, you go, oh, that's that electric, invisible magic that they captured as a result of that, fun and excitement that they had in the process. So it's such a never ever changing thing. Excuse me. An important thing is to never try to keep it the same, I think.
Yes, sir. Okay. Did all those people you named help with this album?
Absolutely, on Red Omen, every one of those people
wow.
that I mentioned were on there, and some Incantation, whether it was here at Area 51 or at Phase 1 in Toronto. But, yeah, it was all a part of it. And, sometimes certain people feel right to be on certain things. Like, you hear a track, and you're like, this, like, it's missing something. And like keyboard, and I know tons of keyboard players and piano players, but, you know somebody that listens in a certain way, and you think, well, I'm just going to give it to them. And they'll listen the way they need to, and invariably what they send me back, or if they're here in the studio, comes off being like breathing, because they have that sensibility about them. So it's also kind of important to, like, steward the idea to the right people so that, you feel like, well, without having to over-explain yourself, they'll feel it out and the right outcome will be there.
Mm-hmm. So I just got a question from Facebook. They want to know about Area 51. Is that your studio? And if it is, do you have some obsession with aliens?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, my family had an entire... Well, who was it? My mom, two sisters, brother, and grandparents back in 1967, a mass sighting near our house. It was in between our barn and our home. And it was also reported by the Buttonville Airport and the David Dunlop Observatory. The airport had reported tracking 6 different UFOs in the area. So that framework of the alien overtone of things has always been a part of my family allegory. And for me, I started getting into it and studying it at a very young age. So I'm very up on, how you might say, crypto politics and crypto agendas, if you will. So my studio is aptly named as a result of my sarcasm when it comes to that topic.
Man, that is amazing. We can actually turn that into a different topic between you and I, but we're here to talk music.
It's all good, man. It's all good.
Yeah, it's all good. Okay. So we know right now with all new releases, artists are typically out and about performing and talking about the record as much as possible. Let's hear it from you. Tell us about the short-term and the long-term goals for Ed Roman and your music. What's on the horizon to come?
Well, I'm planning a new video for the spring. That's definitely a new single. And I'm flip-flopping between tunes, and I don't want to give anything away because it's like, you know, the artists before, showing the piece before it's done kind of a thing. But, you know, that's, again, a certain framework of thinking or emotional state that you may be in as a result of whatever will probably dictate, you know, that's why I'm going to go ahead and do that video. So with that said, that's short term because that'll be in the next couple of months. And in the long term, I just actually found out I'm doing an endorsement spot for a company for a year, and it's a whole bunch of products, and I'll probably be going into New York and Los Angeles to NAMM to do a bunch of demos for them. So that's a long-term thing. That's like a long-term project. It's like every week I'm working on this. There's like a monthly sort of project that's involved with the whole thing. And what's great is it becomes this cross-promotional tool for not only them but myself. So the long-term goal is to keep talking about the music, performing the songs when I can as a result of the events that are occurring, and continually talking to people. That, I mean, I found, you know, you were mentioning before, and it was great what you were talking about in terms of social media and what musicians are doing or they're not doing or what they should be doing or how they make money doing what they're doing. You know, I think that's the most important, is having that continual flow of change and moving forward through that. And for me, having continual contact with people is the biggest deal. If I went out now and I bought a pair of shoes and I went into the store and I had this great experience in the purchasing process of it, the salesperson was really nice, and they knew a lot about the shoes, and the manufacturer, you know, comes in every third week, and he just so happened to be there, and we had this great conversation about their product. And, you know, all of that communication is the biggest part of what makes me go back to that shoe store, to that shoe salesman, to that whoever it is, because I have that understanding with them. I'm not just an arbitrary number. And for me, that's how I felt I've in terms of my success in doing what I'm doing, is having that with people. I'm very quick to respond, even to people that aren't necessarily in the media or anything like that, just because, you know, I mean, the experiences I've had, whether it was meeting Herbie Hancock or other famous people, it was all that humility that they demonstrated that made that experience, I'm sure, for both of us, real. So I guess that's part of, as a, you know, an artist, if you're gonna, you know, sell your stuff, and you need to connect with people and do it all the time. It's something you have to be doing. So that's always the long-term goal, is continually talking to people, and I never usually shut up. So, you know.
Definitely. All right. So it seems like no matter which band or artist that we choose, we see both short songs and short albums at times. Matter of fact, my bandmate, almost all of his songs are shorter than 2 minutes. And Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day once quoted to say that anything that can't be said under 3 minutes isn't worth saying. So I was listening to Clone the Sheep, which falls right at 2 minutes and 32 seconds. Do you apply this theory as well? Is there some truth in that for you?
Yes and no, because I mean, I agree with that in that level, because I'm not gonna attention span, quote unquote, statement insert here. I think there's a lot to be said about this wave that exists inside of writing. 200 years ago, classical composition could go on for an hour and a half. 2 hours. We then went to a completely different framework in the early modern era of jazz composition, where some music could be 8 to 10 minutes in length, and it was considered popular music. And then we went to the crooner / let's say, Nat King Cole era of music or whatever outside of that, even in the 50s and singers of the 1950s, and everything became really short and commercialized. So again, there may be a flux in the length of something, and as a result, the art form dictates that it needs to be that way. That tune, Clone the Sheep, is short and sweet, and it's so hurried and crazy, and it's just like punk metal tune. I think it really exemplifies the whole story and really what the tune's kind of saying and its speed and everything. It's kind of, where we're at today with how fast things are moving, and people all sort of doing the same thing in a sort of sheep-like mentality sometimes, and that's kind of where all that comes from. But, who knows, because I love tunes that are 7 minutes long, and I love a good 3-minute tune as well. Mm-hmm. So it's all where you're at, and I think it changes. As I said, it vacillates. It goes through these fluctuations in what that is.
Definitely. But from your experience, how do you know when a song is truly done? Like, even a song that's 2 minutes and 32 seconds, I mean, how do you know when you said all you could, in that time frame?
Well, it's a great question. Like, there's something in the process that through, like, the spark of it, the thing that sort of propels you into it is one thing. And sometimes that thing that is the initial spark, like your first question, is really the end of the song. Sometimes I work backwards. That's the plus of being a dyslexic, is that sometimes you can start at the end to get to the beginning, and then look at the beginning again in order to get to a new ending. So I always try to look for what that final summation is in its similarity to what the original statement is, or what it is off the top. Is somehow this emotional bookending effect to certain things. It's very different when you're writing like jazz composition, because the search for melody inside of composition could take a while, and sometimes where it's leading you emotionally and with your ear may be short and sweet, but other times it may extend itself into a longer sort of complex arrangement. So I think the important thing again is to follow that instinct to go, you know what, enough has been said here, because I mean, even in books and stuff that I've written before, I may have written 6 verses, but I'm really only going to use 3 or maybe 4, or choose the 3 that I think out of those 6 say something a little bit more, just. And so for me, again, I'm never really trying to like put too much method on it, but it kind of tells you, it's enough. Put it down.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. So on a record like Tough Cookie, I was taken right back to the 60s and 70s, and for that record, I wasn't born anywhere near that. What is it about this track that you think makes it so that we can close our eyes and maybe not know that it's a song from right now? Like, that song was recorded when, last year, a few years ago?
Yeah, well, just last year, yeah.
Just last year, yeah. So, so how could we tell?
Well, I mean, inside of the recording process, I think, and new equipment and stuff like that, trained ears for sure would go, well, this has definitely been recorded now. But, I mean, we use a lot of vintage gear. We have a lot of vintage microphones and preamps here. So that, I think, also colors that sound in that way to make you feel like this could be from the 70s. Like you mentioned Billy Joel or something. I mean, I grew up listening to Billy Joel. Stranger on vinyl was in the house, and I remember listening to that record. And people have drawn comparisons between that song and something he may have written. And I mean, I never sat down and went, hey, I'm going to write a tune that's like feels like a Billy Joel tune that's really like 70s-ish. I was just feeling something in a way. And, you know, a good friend of mine once said, Dylan Hemming, a fantastic pianist and a Hammond organ player, he said, you know, we're always defined by our influences and our limitations. And I always remember those little, you know, statements and things that people say all the time, because you carry them around like, you know, little monikers. But we emulate in some ways without even knowing the people that we grew up listening to or the people that we like. Like, I might catch myself playing something in a certain way and go, well, you know, maybe Family Man Barrett may have played a bass line out on a Bob tune. But I love Family Man, and I listen to a lot of his bass playing. I can't help not to, because I was a Wailers fan and a Bob fan. So for me, you may hear some of that, you know, in the playing, but it's not anything like, well, I'm going to write a Family Man part. You know, I'm just feeling that vibe and that feeling that I remember, and I'm trying to more or less create the imagery of that memory as opposed to the exact memory.
Definitely. All right. So, going back to Red Omen, the album. So I'm looking at the artwork, and I'm really digging this design. Who did it?
That's David Bagley. He's an artist from the city of Toronto, and we go way back to high school days. Mm-hmm. Dave's one of those creative souls that's, you know, somebody will call him and go, hey, you know, I need a painting that looks like, you know, an Aboriginal-esque Celtic piece for something. He can do it, but at the same time, he'll, you know, redesign an entire rec room to make it look like a Crayola crayon box. You know, he's really just like a bit of a polymath and into a lot of different things. And he approached me about it, and I like a lot of his sort of calligraphic kind of stuff that he does. And I said, Dave, I'm looking for a rooster. I mean, you kind of go with it. That's the thing. It's, again, instinctually you start going, well, you know, feel it out. What are you feeling here? And I mean, I sent him a ton of little clips of different things that I was like, you know, the Kellogg's rooster and a whole bunch of things that weren't exactly what it would be. But I said, well, you think it out, and here's the tunes. You listen to it, and you come up with something. And he showed me this big board that he did a drawing of, and I went, dude, like, that's it, because when I look at it, I'm always seeing something different. And their imagery, the imagery that's in it says so much about the big red love button that I'm trying to push in the record. And, I mean, the mm-hmm. album is red. The rooster's body is basically a big heart, you know, and if you look in the eye is a bass clef, and I'm a bass player, you know, and the staff of the rest of the lions make up the rest of the rooster's face. And that there's these hands that almost look like they're from a Polynesian, you know, tiki gods that are holding their fingers together on the tail. Mm-hmm. All of that is like kind of the music that's in the record. There's something different always going on. Every time you look at it or listen to it, you hear something different. And it has that iconographical symbolism that we're so accustomed to now in terms of language. You know, even like if you were to open your smartphone or something, you're going to push an emoticon or, you know, some sort of iconographical symbol to open up an app. That's what that symbol really represents on the record. It's that sort of emotional boom symbolism for the ideas that are inside the record. So, you know, I mean, when he wanted to take a step, I'm like, do it, dude, you know, and it's turned out to be a great relationship because we've gotten a lot of attention because of it. A lot of people love the artwork, and he's a hell of a nice guy.
Definitely cool design. So tell him I said that.
Yeah, man.
I'll actually like to see more of his work.
Dave Bagley, if you look online, you'll see a ton of his stuff. He designs guitars and does all kinds of like board game tables, like inlays of different woods, and he's a very, very, very talented man.
Definitely. All right. So, what, in your opinion? Oh, I got another question from Facebook.
Sure, man.
She asked, Ed, are you a commercial farmer? Or are you stingy like Deanie?
Are you gonna throw? Yeah, I came from a commercial farming background, but the 1,500 acres that we worked, as I mentioned, like the corn, barley, and alfalfa, and all sorts of different things, as I mentioned, in the vegetable gardens that we grew, it was all pretty much sent to market and or used for the cattle that we raised. We had dairy cattle as well as beef cattle. So we had 600 head of dairy cattle, and we had another 250 head of beef cattle. So a lot of that food also went to sustain them. But, that was an older, more romantic form of farming. And we didn't use pesticides. We rotated crops. We saved our own seeds. And when Markham changed the way that it did and, turned into a bigger part of metropolitan Toronto, the farmland ceased to exist. So I moved a couple hours north of there to sort of take on that same kind of lifestyle. And I have 49 acres behind me that's farmland, that's cash crop, and then we have a very large garden on the 2-acre parcel that we have here on the old home that we have here. So I'm, like I said, farming's in my blood, but a different kind of mentality and lifestyle back then, in terms of farming and what we would consider corporate family farming.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Hope that answered your question, miss. Okay. What, in your opinion, makes for a perfect cover track? My bandmate Mike always tell me there is no such thing as a perfect cover. Do you agree? And do you perform covers at your live shows?
Absolutely, because, man, I've heard, every artist that I've ever listened to has done a cover at some point in their lives. And I think that we do it for a number of reasons. Well, one, you might just be in a cover band and it's a paid gig and you're learning lots of tunes. But for me, I fall in love with that story, and it's touching me in a very magical way right now in my life. Mm-hmm. So I carry them around again with me, more like, emotional totem poles. They're reminders for me of certain things. So when I get a chance to perform them, they almost feel more like they're mine, in that statement, like, can there be the right cover? Is there the right cover? I think it matters to the person when it's happening to them, and how it's manifesting in their life, because they can really push you and take you through some bad times. And for me, there are these, amplifications of how important this song seems to me right now. So I want to share it with you, kind of a thing. And, it's not a bad thing to put your own spin on it. The tune doesn't have to be done exactly like the artist had done, and I think that's what also creates that uniqueness. It makes it a little bit more your own.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, man.
So we were out in San Diego earlier this month on a promo run, me and Mike, who's my bandmate. So Mike and I, we do a lot of covers. We don't really cover songs together, but we do them individually. And he does way more than I do. So while we were driving up to San Diego, he told me that he'll be pissed if he wrote a hit song and someone covered it better than the original. I was like, what? That's crazy. But you cover songs all the time. And I, however, wouldn't care, because we do cover songs on the basis, like I said, it's only right in the universe if the actions are recycled. How do you feel, or would feel, if someone covered your song and did it 10 times better?
You know what? To me, the message came for some reason. I don't know what it is. And if it gets pushed out there by somebody else and people get the message, that's what's more important to me. Like, to me, that's what's so, like, there's been a lot of tunes in the past that others have popularized, and it's like, well, they didn't write that, and she didn't write that, and he didn't write that. But, again, the cream rises to the top, if you will, somewhere down the road. people might say, "Oh, Sinatra, My Way," but down the road, people are going to go, "That's Paul Anka, man."
Mm-hmm.
I think it all comes out in the wash. So, and if you have the rights to it and somebody else is performing it and, you're getting paid for it, that's not a bad thing on a commercial level. But, I guess the personability of what the song represents to the artist, it's not necessarily shattered, but you might think, well, geez, I wish I could have, made that happen that way, But, again, to me, it's like, well, the message is getting out there.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I'm sure this happens to you a lot, but if a fan comes up to you after a show and says, "Hey, Ed, you just have to know that your song, Nothing More to Say, has changed my life, and your music means everything to me," how would you respond?
Well, first, hey, thanks, for sure. And then I usually ask somebody what their name is, and what they do with their lives. Because to me, that also, if they're saying something to me about the tune, and I want to know why it's affecting them that way. Because then I think it leads to a really great conversation. Something else occurs as a result of it. And even the same thing for me if somebody were to come up and say, "Hey, man, I hate that tune." Usually my response invariably will be, "Thank you." And they'll look at me like, "What? I just told you I didn't like the tune." And I'd be like, "Well, but I'm so glad you have an opinion." And without, them taking, think I'm being a smart aleck or something. It's not that at all. I really mean it. I'm happy that you've stated how you feel. And you know how many times people have ended up sticking around as a result of that conversation, that defusing of somebody could have gone off and said, "Well, such and such, so and so, and this and that." But I welcomed the criticism, and most people don't expect that. So for me, I always then it charges another conversation. It goes, "Well, who are you, and why are you here?" And all of that makes for fodder for more information, man. I'm an information hog. So I welcome it all.
Man, that is so cool that you actually take the time out to do that, even for the ones that are, critical of your work. I'm going to have to add that to old Deanie's book there. That's a new one. I've never heard of that. That's cool that you do that. Yeah.
My dad was a politician, and he hated that word. He considered himself a public servant. And he was the mayor of our town. He was the first coalition federal candidate ever in the history of Canadian federal politics, won as an independent in Ottawa. He was there for 4 years. He was commissioner of York Region, police commissioner, chairman of York Region for 6 years. This is all while he had multiple sclerosis and fought a brain tumor. And he always used to say to me, "You can't please all the people all the time." And I know what he means, but that doesn't mean you still can't have an open dialogue with the people that you can't please. And somehow inside of that, you're learning from that experience, and believe it or not, so are they, because you've discharged it. It's no longer, character assassination and criticism. It's like, well, who are you? And who are you? Okay, well, let's talk. So it goes a long way, man.
Definitely. So, since we're on the subject of that particular song, and it's definitely my favorite Ed off the album thus far, the vocals are just super incredible. And my question, though, is not really about the song, I guess. Is that, do you ever see yourself in any kind of traditional band setting, or are you happy being on your own musically? I know you work with a lot of musicians during the recording sessions, but what about, just Ed roaming in the doo-wops or whatever?
I love it, man. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, I love interaction with people. I love the symbiotic relationship that exists inside of the moment. And for me, that's when the music really lives. I mean, I play a lot of solo shows, And when the band does get to play, for me, it's like it's breathing. It's like, you know, a living organism. Not like the tunes aren't on their own. They were written that way in their naked infancy. You know, they were just, you know, birthed, and this is kind of how they were. And they take on different feelings and emotions from night to night. But when the band is playing it and you're pumping, and you can feel it, and you know, people are shaking a boot. Like, for me, that's a big deal. I love that aspect of it. So I welcome it whenever it can be there.
Yeah, definitely. So it works either way for you. Do you save like the solo shows for more intimate settings and use the band for like bigger venues?
Well, it depends. You know, I mean, it's financing and what the venues can afford and so many things. I mean, at solo, I've played to, you know, a couple thousand people. And same thing with the band. I mean, 5,000 people, fairly large audiences, but solo I've played to, you know, 25. And so is the band. So I think that the important thing is that you concentrate and focus on the art. And no matter whether it's the band, whether it's solo, whether it's 5 or 50,000, it's all about making that piece live and live in the moment. Well, you know, I mean, if I'm in Jamaica and I'm walking around with my guitar and somebody's sitting on the side of the road and we're just hanging out and I'm singing tunes, but, you know, I might be playing at a club the next night and there's 120 people there. And it's the same tune, but the experience is different.
Yeah.
Because you know, it's felt in the moment for those reasons. So I'm just happy to practice my craft. That's the thing. Anytime I got an instrument in my hand, whether it's with a band or by myself, I'm a pretty happy person.
Definitely. So I really didn't know that we would actually get into like farming and aliens with you. But I did have this one question though, and I've asked this question to a few people on the show. But Ed, I would love to hear your opinion on what the defining characteristics of being spiritual are versus being religious. And I don't know if you are or not. If you don't mind, which are you?
I think I'm a spiritualist. I mean, I actually kind of consider myself to be a bit of a pantheist. I mean, to me, I've spent a lot of time outside. And I've had experiences that you can't get in a book, online, or pay for as a result of placing myself there. And for me, it is sort of grounded me. Even my experiences in Jamaica, being in the jungle, being up in the mountains, certain things have made me appreciate what my sort of animalistic, let's say, existence is about. Even my connection of growing food makes me feel like if I serve you, you will serve me. If I look after you, you will look after me. And I see this rhythm exist in nature everywhere. It's very different than dogma. It's very different than religious practices. I see it even almost being more karmic-based as a result of that lifestyle. And for me, spiritualism also exists in some sort of East Indian-like philosophies as well in terms of reincarnation, because I met a lot of very influential spiritualists in my life and mediums. And, you know, you get that feeling from certain people when you meet them, even with young kids that you meet. You go, that kid's an old soul. Or that kid's a young soul. Just by the certain aspects of their either vicariousness in their attitude or whatever it may be. But for me, I think that's also a big part of it. I think it's a sort of cycle and envelope that's always growing, just like the art experience. You know, I mean, art for me is a very spiritual thing as well, because again, it's this path of discovery and enlightenment. Just like I mentioned, those same experiences that I've had in nature. So I consider myself, to be more thinking dialectically on the spiritual side of it than more religious. But, you know, I'm always learning, so who knows?
Definitely. So that's cool. All right, so you have a song and music video on your Vevo account, which can be found at Ed Roman Vevo, called I Found God. What is that song really about, if you care to dive in with us?
Well, I almost identically, in terms of what I was saying, that pantheistic kind of thing. I mean, I see so many, my uncle, we came from Europe at a time when, oppression in the height of the 1920s, the beginning of really the Nazi Empire, let's say. Half of my family were killed, put in concentration camps. All of that in that dogmatic, political, socio-political-esque lifestyle and attitude, it can be very destructive inside of what groupthink is.
Yes.
And, people are always saying, well, this is my God, and this is my God, and this is my God. Well, that's your God, and that's your God, and da-da-da-da-da. But you know what? I don't think any of us would have what that is without this ball that we stand on, this beautiful, revolving sphere in space that's so delicately balanced between a star and everything that keeps it in perfect cosmic alignment with air and water and trees and food and all of those kinds of things that sustain our ability to argue about the dogma. I'm the kind of person in the backfield yelping, going, hey, everybody that is killing each other over whose God is right, I found it. You're standing on it. That's the sort of message behind it. And on an epitaph level, it's like something I would want scrolled across my gravestone. It's like, it came upon a vision. I leave you my admissions. To me, it's all very godlike, this whole experience of life. And we get so caught up in so many things, materialism and egoism, ego-driven mentality, and all these things that are so unhealthy for the human side of spiritual development, that's where that song was trying to kind of tongue-in-cheek, sarcastically, but yet seriously dictate the idea that, wait a minute, maybe we're standing on it, and I really wanted to say that on that record. Letters, it was the last tune on that album. As you go through that album, it has this feeling like you're at the beginning of the record, I told you so, is the tune on that album. But as you pass through it, it feels like you're leaving the planet, and you're like, each tune is getting you further away from what that earthbound experience is. And now you're looking at it. You've heard astronauts say, man, I was standing on the moon, or I was in space looking at the earth, and they're awestruck by the fact that this thing is there and that we're on it. So for me, that song has that, again, spiritual life potency, if you will, in terms of how I feel about, the spirit world or life itself. So, I found God, you're standing on it.
Man, that is real. That is too real, too real. All right. So, Ed, we have tons of hungry listeners.
All right.
That are always, searching for new sounds, new people to follow. What do you personally feel are the best aspects of your music, and why should they feel the need to dive deep into your sounds?
Well, you know what? My songs are not there to dictate. They're there to try to get other people to think in their own free world, in their own framework of thinking. They're more just like, if you're walking down the street and you saw a sign that said Simpson Avenue, well, you might go Simpson, The Simpsons, Homer Simpson. It might lead you to this whole, cartoons, Matt Groening. Oh, yeah, Conan O'Brien wrote for them for a while. Oh, the Conan O'Brien show. And it's this sort of track of thinking that becomes a web of ideas in your own mind. That's what I always found interesting about writers that I love to listen to, is that it's not just the superficial aspect of the word or the statement. It allows you to go deeper for yourself. It becomes something that you can transcend inside of the idea. And I think that's, in some ways, You know, I'm not trying to blow smoke out of my own butt, but without having some sense of that in any form of artwork that you can ponder, whether it be something that's painted, sculpted, danced, spoken, played, whatever it might be, that's what makes the art experience real. It makes it personal for the person. It's not just this superficial thing that you've purchased. It's your own. It becomes part of you, and that's what makes that world strong, not just even in what I'm trying to do, but everything that's going on around you.
That is too real. Oh, my goodness. All right, so here is the open floor for you, Ed. Man, I could listen to you talk all day, really.
You too, man. You got a great voice. You got a great voice.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
So we always like to end our shows off with a moment for you to say anything at all that you like to your fans and possible new fans here at our with our audience, you know, people discovering your music. So what would you like to say?
Well, first off, I have to say there's so many people, and the list is endless, man, in social media, whether it's Twitter or Instagram or on Facebook or any of the social media platforms out there that have been so supportive. Radio stations, independent radio, terrestrial radio, international radio. They've just been spinning it like wildfire. And moment by moment, I'm getting notifications. They're playing, I'm spinning this, da-da-da. I can't thank everybody enough for all of that support, because, I mean, that's what makes it strong. It's the sharing, it's the cross-promotion, the discussion of the information that makes it grow and live. So, you know, and the fans, they're out there, man. In the last year, I'm almost up to 50,000 fans, people supporting the band page and everything that's going on. So that's, you know, it's a united we stand kind of mentality in my school of things. And I don't know, you know, I'm always being asked, you know, well, what keeps you artistically minded? What keeps you fruitful in your patterns of writing and thinking and stuff? And you see, the thing is that I don't think that the artist's mind is as separated or uniquely as driven as all different, as than anybody else. And so in that regard, I think that somebody that's using their mind and body in a very healthy way, and this is why I always condone the idea of growing food, allows for that envelope of artistic thinking to exist. And because you're using your hands, you're having to problem solve, you're getting exercise, you're getting fresh air, you're getting clean food, all of those kinds of things that are there to kind of sustain you. And somehow massaging that thinking process translates into the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And you end up having a far more open mind, I think, in certain ways to certain things, because you're kind of cycling through that same thinking and framework and mentality. So, you know, get out there in the garden and grow some peppers, man. You know, tomatoes, lettuce, corn, you know, all those kinds of good things that you can grow yourself, and do it with your kids, because you want an education and something that'll last them a lifetime. That's what that will be for them. You're out there with them, learning with them, you know, laughing with them, working with them, getting dirty with them. And in the end, they pass that on to their kids and their kids and their kids, and it becomes this beautiful garden.
Yes, sir. All right, that was deep. I'm telling you, I could listen to you all day. Ed, do you have a podcast? Because I think I vaguely remember seeing your face somewhere else before.
I've been doing a lot of writing and a lot of podcasting and shows for a lot of people. And in fact, in the last year, I've been interviewed by 3 different authors for paranormal experiences, because my family's had an inordinate amount of paranormal things going on. So I've been really out there. The big toe has been in the wind for sure. So, yeah.
So cool, man. You're dope all the way around. All the way around.
Thank you, California.
Yes, sir. All right, so after the music break, it'll be time for our usual tradition. It is called the hot seat. You say, what is the hot seat, Deanie? I'll tell you. Our fans love this part of the segment, and of course, along with the actual interview, because we actually get a chance to learn things about our guests. But the audience gets to hear either some vocals, poem, maybe an inspirational speech, written work, spoken word, freestyle rap, recite lyrics, musical tributes, karaoke, jokes, stories, or live instruments from our special guests. Well, you never know what these creative minds and vessels will produce in a spotlight. And tonight, we'll find out if Ed Roman have what it takes to be put on the spot, a test of his true artistry, and maybe even some hidden talents. So let's cue up some music real quick. Let's see. Matter of fact, we have Ed Roman, The Way She Goes.
I could dance a lifetime with my sweet tobacco rose. You could build your nation with dirty hands in denim clothes. And even in our twilight, I think that everybody knows. An open mind, a subtle heart are the only way she goes, and that's the way she goes. Just like an open door or window, that's the way she goes. Just like the bathwater with the baby, that's the way she goes. Too many people acting crazy, that's the way she goes. Have you been singing this song lately? The whistle on your kettle's been chirping, and deep red is the song. Your mortal shackle's been winning battles, I think you've known this all along. The squeaky wheel's been seasoned because the grease price is too high. Just change another channel, it never ever changes, and wave it all goodbye. That's the way she goes. Just like an open door or window, that's the way she goes. Just like the bathwater with the baby, that's the way she goes. Too many people acting crazy, that's the way she goes. If you've been singing this song lately, sha-la-la-la-la-la, we know it's wrong but we say it's right. Sha-la-la-la-la-la-la, we know it's black but we say it's white. Sha-la-la-la-la-la, you gotta put up a hell of a fight. Yes, you do. We're somewhere in the middle of the ending. So summarize your fears and woes. It's like a fragrant golden season. It purifies you and your soul. I tip my hat to rebels when the newsman calls him foe. And if you check inside your pockets, you'll find it's all just one big show. But that's the way she goes. Just like an open door or window, that's the way she goes. Just like the bathwater with the baby, that's the way she goes. Too many people been acting crazy, that's the way she goes. If you've been singing this song lately, that's the way she goes. If you've been singing this song lately, that's the way she goes. If you've been singing this song lately, that's the way she goes. If you've been singing this song lately, that's the way she goes. If you've been singing this song, that's the way she goes. That's the way she goes. If you've been singing this song, if you've been singing this song lately, that's the way she goes. That's the way she goes.
You were listening to Ed Roman, The Way She Goes. And we are back, folks, live in the mix again with Mr. Ed Roman. And Ed, you're in our hot seat. What do you have for us?
Let's see, what did you, it's like, how about some spoken word or something?
Hey, that'll work.
Yeah, okay. For those that have ever felt like, 3 days at a festival without a shower, and, listening to music and dancing for 72 hours, let's say. So it goes like this. It's a fog of murk and a shadowy figure appears in the morning light, but the distance prevails and the infant day, yet not embraced by the morning light, curtains my vision. Red eyes, tattered clothing, and nothing but the husk of a once and great powerful troll, swooned by the haunting melody of the laughing brook and lured from the woods. This fog turns faster towards me. His face begins to speak in impressions and calling me as though in a dream. Dance, dance, dance. There I see his face, vein reflexed beyond repair, and all his cyclonic movements of whistles of abnormality dance with brief and broken song. A chattering droop lip urges me closer to explain the lack of medication. His suggestion? A subscription for footloose intoxication. Tear off your clothes, let down your hair, tie your ego in a knot and stack it over there. Dance, dance, dance. I get up, I get down when I'm feeling kind of mean. I'm acting like a troll, do you know what I mean? Say, I get up, I get down when I'm feeling kind of mean. I'm acting like a troll, do you know what I mean? As though claiming victory with every step, the gnome leaps higher to the air, casting his body like a net upon open waters. Arms flailing akimbo, legs working insatiable pedals. At once the gnome calls to the sky and the dance begins. Da-boo-ya-ya-ya! Shaman of Asterian philosophy embroidered by the whimsy of a merry-go-round shuffle. It is then that I am thrown to the masses that the pie dancer entrances in time. In time, in time. I get up, I get down when I'm feeling kind of mean. I'm acting like a troll, do you know what I mean? I get up, I get down when I'm feeling kind of mean. I'm acting like a gnome, do you know what I mean? I gotta dance like a wild gnome. I gotta dance like a wild gnome. I gotta dance like a wild gnome. I gotta dance like a wild gnome.
That is too awesome. Wow. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah,
that was a great performance.
Was that hot seat enough?
Yeah. Are you sweating?
I'm sweating. Well, my knee's sweating.
Yeah. That was fantastic, though.
Thanks, bro. Thanks.
Thank you. So, hey guys, thank you, my Vigilantes family, as always, for being so caring and giving us an hour of your time when we broadcast, especially for Mr. Ed Roman. A lot of you guys turned out tonight, and I know it's not for me. Don't worry, though. My feelings are not hurt. Ed is an incredible, incredible artist, a true musician. From that time, from this time, from all times. Who knows? He may be from Area 51 himself. You never know. We found out all kind of things on Vigilantes Radio, right, guys? Yes, we do. So, again, thank you guys for checking out the podcast over here at Vigilantes Radio. All episodes are available for free. And, of course, it's download. You can stream, share it, bootleg it, you know. Choice is yours. And you can grab that from our server over at Spreaker.com/only1mediagroup, iTunes, YouTube, our website, which is Only One Media Group. And that goes for every single episode that we've ever aired. If you'd like to request music or send something for us to play, email it to vradio@onlyonemediagroup.com. We do have something called All Music Night. So, yeah, send. Also, if you tuned in at least 10 to 15 minutes before the show, you heard a loop playing. Well, that loop plays 24/7. If you like to add your song to that loop, feel free to shoot me an email as well. And just put loop this Deanie. Include your artist name, song title, and I guess now we will start tagging social media. Here's my disclaimer. We are genre-free, we do not judge, and we absolutely do not base our opinions on hearsay, but facts. And actually, you can scratch all of that because all of my opinions are always right. That's just the bottom line. This is my show, something you just got to deal with. Nah, just kidding. On behalf of myself, Deanie Mussolini, I appreciate you guys, as always, for tuning in, either afterwards or live with us. Spread the word because sharing is caring. A special thanks to our guest, Mr. Ed Roman, for joining us tonight. We stepped our game up just for you guys and our guests to make sure that you all have the best experience here on our show. You know, Deanie just may end up on a song of theirs. I do it all, my friends. Okay, well, just remember to be yourself and be absolutely freaking great at just doing that. Peace and have a wonderful night.
You are now listening to Vigilantes Radio, the people's choice for quality interviews, art, music, and hot topics. Hosted by Demetrius Houdini Black Reynolds of the duo No Longer the Hero. Co-hosted by the Vigilantes Banditti. Call in to join the mix. All episodes of this podcast are available for free download at www.onlyonemediagroup.com.